This week on Full Circle Florida, Trump's first 100 days in office. From the trade war to border security, I hit the streets to get your voice and your grade. Supply shortages as the trade war with China heats up, the plummeting shipments about to hit U.S. ports. I speak with USF supply chain expert Sechkin Oskul on what it all means for you. From hurricanes to higher costs, has the glow worn off Tampa Bay? Why fewer people are moving here? Jacob Reyes from Axios takes us behind the numbers. Plus, political analyst Dr. Susan McManus breaks down the last days of the Florida legislative session, what passed and why it matters. We begin with Trump's first 100 days. I hit the streets for your voice, asking locals to rate the president's performance from A to F. All right, we're walking, we're talking to you, getting your voice. It's been 100 days since President Trump has been in office for the second time. How's he doing, according to you? Your letter grade, let's get your voice. Here we go. We're asking people what they think of President Trump, his first 100 days in office. What grade would you give him?
He's doing a great job.
What grade would you give him?
A plus.
A plus. What grade would you give him?
F.
F.
You got it.
F? Okay, why?
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 He's actually a comedian, not a president. Definitely.
What do you think so far?
We have no opinion.
I'll take that as a F.
That's an F. Complete failure.
How you guys doing? The talker today, 100 days in office. Why do you think that way?
Because I think he's a liar.
You're the first B we've had today. Everyone's either an A or an F. I take that as not a good grade. All right.
I trade stocks and I caught the dump.
Good.
That's all I got to say.
What grade would you give him as a president?
As a president,
So far.
so far, first term or second term?
This term. It did start with the letter F. Let me ask you this. Has there ever been a time where it's been in fluctuation, or have you always held that opinion about him, or has there been a time where you thought maybe there could be something there?
Well, I know that you're talking about just President Trump. However, the general direction that they're taking the government at this time is not taking care of the people.
President Trump's first 100 days in office, what grade would you give him?
A plus.
A plus. Why?
I don't even have a grade, just chaos.
It's interesting that you made that distinction, though, with the first term and second term. Tell me more about what you're thinking with that.
I just think, in terms of numbers in the House and the Senate, he has more on his side. He's able to do more. So, like you said, it hasn't been long yet, but we'll see what happens. He has more leeway to do what he wants.
We just talked to people that said it's an F for them. What do you think about the dichotomy of people will say F, people will say A plus?
I think there's a lot of people that'll hate Trump just because he's Trump. I think a lot of people don't understand the tariffs, and I don't think they understand that some things don't happen overnight. It takes a little bit of time.
You've been the most analytical person we've talked to about this situation so far. It's either been an F, hate the guy, can't stand him, or A, love the guy, whatever he does is great. You're more sort of strategically thinking about it, seems. I'm just gathering.
Yeah, like I said, I work for myself, but I trade the financial market, so it makes sense for me to know about this kind of stuff and be informed.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the bay in St. Petersburg, here's what people had to say.
He's doing very well.
What grade would you give him?
I'd give him a D minus at the most.
Why?
Well, look at the tariffs.
What grade would you give him if you had to give him a report card?
Give him 95.9.
That's an A, right?
That's an A.
Yeah, I think he's getting
That's
everything
an A.
back on the right track.
He's going to get us all killed anyway, so
Was it ever above a D minus?
never.
And why do you think that?
Oh, because he's invoking the policies that we need to turn things around. These tariffs, we've been taken advantage of for many years. I agree with him. It might take a little suffering, but I think we should suffer
Gotta stop
through
it
it
at some
for the
point in
long
time.
run.
You have a wound, you have to stop the bleeding. You can't bleed to death.
We had no choice, Biden or Trump. So what does that tell you?
It's interesting, two different viewpoints.
Personally, I don't like politics either, but have a great rest of your day, guys.
Thank you. What do you think so far?
It's good.
You think it's good?
Yes, I do.
What grade would you give President Trump?
I would give him a B plus.
B plus. Why?
Because I'm glad that he's cracking down on the border and all the people coming across the border.
I don't pay that much attention.
Are you
I'm already
satisfied?
old enough. I don't need more gray hair than usual.
I think the tariffs are a good idea because we got to figure out something. We're just getting China buying too many products from there. We got to start manufacturing our own products in America.
You don't think about it?
I work for the state of Florida, so I try to stay out of the political aspects of it and just do what my superiors tell me to do.
I guess it really just doesn't matter to me too much. I just control what I can, and some things are out of my control. So I really wouldn't care who's in, to be honest. I just want to be happy, you know, and like play music, stuff like that. So I'm just kind of like, whatever has to happen, I'll adapt and play my trumpet.
What would you say, sir?
I would give him probably a B+. He's not perfect. We hired him to do this. This is why he got elected. To get this country back on track, I think.
Let's just hope and pray for in the next 4 years, we have two legitimate candidates.
Thank you for your feedback. Appreciate it, guys.
Bless America.
Take care. Thank you. Let's bring in our political analyst, Dr. Susan McManus. Okay, Trump's first 100 days. Does he own the economy from the tariffs to the border? He threw everything in the pot all at once. Does this define his presidency?
That's a big question because the economy was what got him to office. So the big question is, as he nears the end of his term, has he done as predicted? After all, he's been telling people short-term pain but long-term gains. So the proof won't be right now in the first 100 days to measure it. It will take a while.
A lot happened in the first 100 days, but you still have 3.5 years to go. Has President Trump's style undermined his ability to push his agenda forward, or quite the opposite?
His style is, in some places, they say it's more mellow, but others say it's all about retribution. But the thing that's really of concern is that he changes his mind a lot on things like tariffs and so forth. So the big question is it, as he says, he's using that as leverage to get people to do things by pulling one way and then pulling back that comes closer to what the other person says, and we don't know.
The border seems to be working, at least in terms of the numbers, but we're now getting into these sort of gray areas with families. You had the wife of the Florida Coast Guardsman. Could this be a PR problem, not just for the president, but for Republicans when it comes to how this looks?
We're not sure right yet, but there is this growing role of the courts in the deportation issue. And obviously, there are a lot of concerns of separation of families. Is that good or bad? Clearly, it's a big issue right now, but we've never seen the level of involvement of the courts. And that was something that Trump did not anticipate, was how much the judicial branch would get involved in this. Freedom of speech issues, due process issues, that have caused these things to go to the courts.
A lot in the first 100 days and more to come. Dr. McManus, thank you. Next on Full Circle Florida, is the trade war about to wind up on your local shelf? Welcome back. It is the pressing issue threatening American consumers and businesses alike, the escalating U.S.-China trade war. This week, port officials started warning of product shortages as the shipments start to dry up. And I spoke with Sechkin Oskal, head of the USF Supply Chain Innovation Lab, on what the very near future could look like. So which industries and products are most vulnerable to shortages?
Paul, thank you for that question. I think any industry that touches the global supply chain, which at this day and age is nearly all of the industries, are going to be impacted by it. There's really no one way or the other. But if you want to ask some specific industries, we're going to definitely say the semiconductors, the electronics. The automobile industry definitely is going to be impacted by this. Some of the food products that we are importing, I was actually recently quoted on another segment of the news about restaurants who basically are fine dining, where they have French wines or cheese collections and whatnot. Those are some of the industries that we're going to see this impact.
Well, the Port of Los Angeles, Long Beach, California, said this week that they expect shipments from China to plummet to 35% or by 35% starting next week. So what do you expect the next 6 to 12 months to look like? I mean, they're saying shortages are coming.
Sure. 6 to 12 months, what I expect is we're going to be seeing companies trying to adjust by passing on some of these additional costs, the tariff costs, to the consumer. We are also going to be seeing some optimization in their inventory. Most companies have already tried to bring in whatever they can before the tariffs took place. So basically, instead of just having a bare safety stock, or they are expanding that safety stock, and then they are not necessarily even doing just in time anymore, which was that habit of trying to cut the cost down by carrying minimal inventory.
They were trying to stockpile their inventory to insulate themselves from shortages, but how long are we talking about there? Is the cushion a month, 2 months, 3 months?
Well, I mean, how much inventory can you carry is the question, right? So we're talking about probably a couple of months, up to 3 months or so.
What does this mean for the consumer? How are we going to feel this when we interact with the industry?
Well, for the consumer, we're definitely going to be seeing, so we may not see the full blunt of the tariff percentages on the price of goods, but we're definitely going to be feeling it. Some companies will absorb some of the shock. So there's a concept of willingness to pay. How much is the consumer willing to pay for a certain good? If there is willingness to pay, we're going to see all of that price increase. If there is no willingness to pay, the company may absorb some of that tariff, but we will still see some increase.
You're talking about price, but talking about selection, I mean, we were joking earlier that do you want a black car or a black car? I mean, is it going to be like that in terms of just like, you're just not going to have as much selection when it comes to the supply?
So selection brings additional costs. So if the companies are trying to reduce their costs, or they barely just not have the raw materials because of the additional tariffs, we will definitely observe some of that, the reduction in selection.
Is this as disruptive, less disruptive, or more disruptive than the COVID-19 pandemic?
They are totally different, but at the very common concept, we're talking about shortage of goods, we're talking about increased costs, so there are similarities. The nice thing about this is it can or it may or may not stay. It can change, right? So it's up to the current administration to keep this in place, or to revise it, or to totally take it off. And we're just going to have to wait and see what the administration decides, and what some of those negotiations that they are mentioning that's happening is gonna give fruit or not.
Second Oskal, thank you for being here. Thank you for insight as always.
Thank you, Paul. My pleasure. Thank you.
Next on Full Circle Florida, why are fewer people moving to Tampa Bay? Welcome back to Full Circle Florida. Is Tampa Bay losing its appeal? Fewer people moved here last year. Jacob Reyes from Axios Tampa Bay explains why the Bay's boom may be on pause. So this was interesting because I think everyone saw this sort of slow pitch coming eventually because of the hurricanes, but this report came out that indicates a sharp decline in people moving to Tampa Bay. 35,000 people moved here in 2023, just 10,000 in 2024. What's behind the slowdown?
Well, I think that, and what we've seen is this has happened across the Sun Belt, right? Tampa had the steepest drop off, and a lot of this has to do with, there was this gap that existed with housing, right? People from more populous cities like New York City and San Francisco, they thought they could come here and get cheaper housing. What we've seen now is that gap has narrowed, due in part to HOA fees, but also to home property insurance and things of that nature.
So, yeah, I mean, it caught up with everyone a little bit. Tampa was the top migration destination. You mentioned it. I think we were kind of like everyone's destination during the pandemic, partly because things were easier here in terms of policies. But has that perception of Tampa Bay as an affordable and desirable place to live, has that changed, or is this just cyclical? You know, you go up, you go down. I mean, just to give you some perspective, in television market, we rank TV markets. New York's 1, LA's 2. Tampa has been between 11 and like 13 and 15 for decades. I mean, we still get more people, but we kind of have bounced in between those two numbers. So we kind of go up, we kind of go down. Is that what this is, or is this deeper than that?
Well, I mean, I do think it's part of obviously like this broader pattern, because what we've seen here is like, all said and done, like rounding out that top 10 was other Florida cities like Miami, Orlando, they're not going anywhere, right? Tampa's not going anywhere. I just think that when you come off like a very active hurricane season, when you're coming off of all the instability that's happening, the work from home stuff is happening, I think it's just a slowdown. But I wouldn't, take your eye off Tampa.
And how does Tampa compare to other cities right now? Is our downturn another city's upturn? I mean, is there a hot city right now that's kind of bursting the way we were a couple of years ago?
Well, I mean, if you're looking at like specifically the list that Redfin analyzed, right, which are the 50 most populous U.S. metros, what we're seeing here is like other Sunbelt cities like Dallas and Atlanta, Georgia, started to also take a hit as well. So it's kind of like, I mean, you're seeing people go back to essentially where they came from in some instances, right?
Interesting.
Like not being able to leave these big cities that they wanted to because having to go into the office and things of that nature.
So it's everyone's expectations have been managed, I guess, a little bit. If you thought, oh, we'll just cash out, move to Tampa, it's not the way it was back in 2020.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's quite evident. I think when you're looking at all the stuff, it's funny. NBC had a report that they published last year talking about how out-of-staters were so unprepared to come to Florida between the climate, between the heat, between the traffic, the wildlife. I mean, they came here expecting sunshine, and they got a lot more than that.
It's interesting because if you go back in time and read sort of the history of Florida, there have been certain awakenings along the way. You can go back into the 20s when they were settling South Florida and they had the dam Lake Okeechobee, and the same thing was happening. People were buying property sight unseen. They called Florida the sixth borough back in the 20s in New York. And, it was thought of as this was paradise, this was Eden. And they came down here and realized, the mosquitoes were the size of your handbag. But, any indication of where this could be headed? Florida's always been this top destination. So does this, last as long as next hurricane season? If we have a few quiet years from Mother Nature, do you start to see the uptick again? Or does this now get deeper into the policies of Florida, like the condo crisis, like insurance, stuff that needs to be worked out and figured out on the state level economically, the hard stuff?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always going to be allure among people who are looking for less taxes with respect to income and things of that nature. Florida is always going to be a haven here, and what's being discussed in Tallahassee right now are more of these incentives to try to keep people here and also have people come in. But I do think that, like, even though this is cyclical, as you noted earlier, I do think that with all the policies, with all, like, it doesn't seem to be that climate's going to give us the break that we're hoping for. And so that said, without active reform to the insurance crisis, to the condo crisis, I don't see this getting better.
Isn't it ironic that we're now having to confront some of these same economic issues and sort of government policies that places that people were escaping to here, that's why they left? I mean, California, New York. I mean, at the end of the day, people vote with their feet, and a lot of times that's dictated by their economic circumstances.
No, I mean, definitely. I mean, when you're looking at, like, and especially when it comes to insurance, right? Because insurance is not like much better in California.
Right.
They have their own climate disasters.
Yeah.
But I think what's different, though, especially in the state of Florida, is like we scrubbed all mentions of climate change. Our leaders are not actively looking towards solutions, and I think that's going to come back to hurt them.
Jacob Reyes from Axios, fascinating discussion. Thank you for your reporting. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Next on Full Circle Florida, the Tallahassee grind. What got done and why it matters to you. Welcome back into Full Circle Florida as we bring Susan back in. All right, the legislative session, it's going to be over at some point. What passed, what stalled, and what is your biggest takeaway?
One of the biggest things to pass was condo reform. It's very critical to our economy, and it was touch and go. What didn't pass is the budget, the one thing that the Constitution requires that they do. Now, what dominated was squabbles within the Republican Party. The governor and the Speaker of the House got into it.
Yeah.
And then the Speaker of the House and the Senate leader, they got into it. And people are very frustrated. Look, you have it all. You have the governor, the House, and the Senate, and you can't get the one thing done on time. It's very frustrating.
It's been like two different Republican parties, and it's almost like they need another month to work out all the issues in a state with 23 million people. Dr. Susan McManus, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching us here on Full Circle Florida. We hope you'll join us again here next week. Have a good one.